Aha! We got it!
You don't have the keys with you, do ya?
Oh, no. Oh, shit.
Every day dropping $1,000 on stuff.
Oh, it's terrible. These are supposed to be little needles, little needle bearings. Instead, it's just dust. Nothing a little gas pedal can't fix. Hey, what's up everybody on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I just got back from a dump run in the old dump truck, and I gotta tell you, it is so awesome. Just driving past all the people, unloading all their garbage by hand, and just hitting the dump thing. It's just the best. I love it. Right now, Des is loading the kids up in the Razor, and I'm gonna follow her out to the back of our field. We're doing some planning for our cows. We need to winter them back there, and I know it's midsummer right now, but this kind of stuff takes a lot of time and preparation, and that's not what we did last year. Last year, we just sort of, we wanged it. And so we're gonna go check out the back of the field, but while we're back there, I wanna go through a list of everything I've ever broken on my 2016 Toyota Tacoma. I just need to preface this video by saying this is not a Toyota hate video at all. I love this truck. It's amazing. I've had four Toyota Tacomas now. I've had every generation of Toyota Tacoma. I love them, and I just keep buying them, and I probably will keep buying them. But I'm very hard on vehicles, and I want to talk to you guys about everything I've broken on this truck and how I feel it compares to the other trucks I've owned, given the first gen, second gen, third gen, and then now my first gen. And that's pretty confusing when I say it that way, isn't it? Owned it for 6 years now, and we've put 83,728 miles on her. Ha ha ha, sucker! Don't know the trails? I win! That's right, boy. Get her in there, roll me black.
Don't break it.
Wow, Susan. Woo! Woo! This road needs a little maintenance. What you doing, Sawyer? Great. Okay.
Why am I here?
Why? Because
I didn't break it.
Yeah, you contribute. I was trying to impress you all these years. So I want to go through the massive list, and it probably could have appeared smaller if I had written it on smaller paper. But I want to go through the massive list of everything I've broken on this truck, or that has broken or has gone wrong with the truck, both like the truck, the Toyota, and also some of the parts that I've put on it. So this list isn't limited to just like Toyota manufacturing. It also includes a lot of the mods that I've put on this truck, or just the things that have failed. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't even think of to write down. We've had this truck for about 6 years. We bought it December of 2015. At the time, you couldn't get a used Tacoma, and it's still, like, Tacomas hold their value so well. It's one of the reasons we love this truck. They hold their value for so long that at the time it was actually easier and faster and pretty much the same price to buy a brand new truck. This is my first truck I've ever bought brand new, than it was to go buy something used. And we got this truck for $36,500. And a lot of the modifications have actually contributed to a lot of the things going wrong with the truck. And so don't make this sway your decision.
But also you did all the work yourself. So
Yes.
it's not necessarily the modifications. If you had done them professionally, you might not have run into any
Wow,
issues.
dude. Wow.
It's true.
I did everything myself. That was a big goal of mine, was to just get a set of tools from Costco and try to figure out how to modify this truck, and everything on the truck, aside from a few little things like gears and a few other little tiny things, I've done myself with no experience. So I also want to encourage you guys to do that, but just anticipate that some things are going to go wrong, and it really depends on how meticulously you do your installs, how well you do your maintenance, and then also just kind of how you drive and how you treat your truck, because I haven't been the most gentle to my truck. So let's go through the list. There's about 20 items that I could remember that have actually broken or gone completely wrong with this truck. And these are not in order at all. These are just like as I remembered them while we were working out at the gym. Can't believe this has come down to using a hatchet. We loaded my Tacoma with 3 dirt bikes, and we mobbed all the way from Everett, Washington to Moab, Utah with 4 dudes in the truck. Needless to say, it was a little bit overloaded, and by the time we got back from the trip, the leaf springs were completely flat. In fact, they were almost curved the opposite way, and the truck was completely tooted, as the kids are calling it nowadays.
What is it?
It's tooted. Tooted out. I think that's what they mean. It's like it had the Carolina squat.
I remember you telling me about that. You were really stressed out, and I just didn't get what the big deal was.
I know, and I was like trying to convince you to let me buy leaf springs because we were broke at the time, and I was like, I need leaf springs, and you're like, how much are leaf springs? And I was like, gosh, they're like $1,500.
Nope.
And that was like impossible at the time. Dude, I saved my pennies forever to get some leaf springs. Yeah, there it goes. She's free. Steering racks. If you're gonna put 35-inch tires or bigger on your Toyota Tacoma, just anticipate that you might blow out a steering rack or 3. Steering rack went out 3 times and we had to replace it. And when you replace your steering rack, Toyota wants to take your whole engine out in order to replace the steering rack. Pro tip, you can do it yourself, but you have to cut the bolts out because the bolts come out going up and the engine's on top of them, so you have to cut them off and then install them backwards. And there's a video on that on my channel. Totally off camera. Wrenching, popped off, boom, punched myself right in the face. Remember in our old house, we had oil coming out of the truck all the time onto the driveway?
Is that the same thing as when you went to that one place and your steering like went out as you were like pulling into the shop?
Oh, that was the brakes, and that's not even on the list. Yes, we blew a brake line.
Yeah, you blew a brake
line. And I forgot about that.
It was super dangerous.
Completely blew a brake line,
yeah.
And that was due to a bad install on my behalf. I did the long travel kit, and the brake line was rubbing on the tire, and I was on the highway, and I started noticing my brake pedal was getting squishy, and so I was like, maybe I should roll up, and the truck was pretty new at the time, so I rolled into Toyota, and as I was coming into the garage, boom, brake line blows out, dumps brake fluid everywhere, no brakes at all, could have died.
So lucky that you were right there.
This is super cool, it looks like a potato.
Cool.
Not a rock.
It's a potato.
Not a rock.
It's a potato. Under your truck, on your lower control arms, you have ball joints, and your upper control arms have ball joints when you switch over to a long travel truck. Ball joints take a ton of maintenance, and I've had ball joint failure. I've had a lot of slop in there. I've had to replace them already once, and it's long overdue to replace it again. In fact, I have a lot of chop and chattery sounds and noises, and it's one of the reasons we haven't been taking this truck very far from home lately, because the ball joints need to be replaced. That's just something to anticipate. If you switch over to long travel or mid travel and you're gonna have uniball ball joints, that's not funny. Don't make fun of my ailment.
Uniball.
I had cancer. What's wrong with you? Anybody with an IFS truck or a long travel truck is going to be familiar with having CV axle issues. Most of the issues have just been boot tears or the boots popping off, slinging all of the grease, and then sand gets up in there and it gets all worn out, and then it gets really sloppy. And if you let that go on for too long and you take it off-roading, you're pretty much bound for a disaster. You're gonna shoot a ball bearing out of your CV axle, which is exactly what happened to me when we were in Moab, Utah. There was a disturbance.
Oh. What was that? Oh, something just broke off.
Oh no.
Oh shit, here's another bearing.
Dude, the whole CV just exploded. Hub and bearing assembly. So you remember when we were in Tahoe, it was my very first group run, and it was a Veterans Day run, and we had like tons of trucks show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that dude got lost, and I was like, I'll get him, and I was like, my truck's all modded out, and so I was just mobbing it way too fast, and I went through a puddle, and lo and behold, inside that puddle was a big stump that stuck out, and it just caught, it just caught the wheel of the truck, and it yanked, like, imagine it just ripped the tire this way. Boom! See, that wheel's straight, that one's crooked. Crap. And that blew out the steering rack.
That was so expensive, especially for us back then. That was so expensive. I was so mad.
You were mad.
I was so mad at you.
And you were like, every time you go off-roading, something breaks.
It still does.
But yeah, it ripped the hub and bearing assembly apart. It broke a CV axle, and it broke the steering rack. It blew all the seals inside the steering rack. So I had no power steering. And yeah, that was pretty devastating.
I was so mad.
That leads me to the ongoing alignment problems. Ongoing alignment issues. So Des drives the truck now. Describe how it drives.
Well, it's a little clunky, but I can hit the curbs now, and instead of breaking my Subaru when I do that, it just kind of goes right over them.
Okay, so it's like a monster truck. But the point is that the steering wheel is cockeyed to the passenger, or sorry, so to the driver's side.
Yeah, I only take it to Costco and back.
Yeah, so it's a little wonky.
Yeah.
And that's something like I've gone in there and I've tried to fix it. I've taken it to alignment shops. I've tried all that. It can't be aligned properly anymore.
You broke it so far, it can't be aligned properly anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. So we had.
How are we gonna resell this truck? You're like pitching this whole thing on your YouTube channel. Someday we're gonna put it up for sale.
No. It's a Toyota Tacoma. You never sell them. You either total them or you keep them for life. They know. They know. For life. We'll see. We can sell the Raptor before we sell this old girl. Did you enjoy your natty life?
Yeah, you have another one?
I do. They're actually not bad.
Is this like Bud Light? This is Bud Light's...
It's like Bud Light's retarded cousin.
You can't say that on film.
On that topic, it sucked up water. We were on a BF Goodrich film shoot, basically mobbing the truck through this river, and the producer was like, yeah, hit it again, hit it faster, go deeper on this radio. And me, being easily influenced, I was like, yeah, I'll be the guy to do that. And I bombed it into this river. And like, I don't have any of the footage because I was just the dancing monkey at the time. And the truck totally sucked up all this water, and we put it up on a hill, and it was like sputtering, the engine was shaking.
But the pictures were phenomenal.
Pictures were phenomenal. It like blue white smoke, but
it was worth it.
But it was worth it.
The shot was great.
And it came back around. It's been fine since. Like
there's
no ongoing issues. But on that photo shoot, I did also have a winch failure, just from like overuse, in and out of that, just in and out.
Do you remember that time on Father's Day where you backed up to a waterfall just to get a picture and we got stuck for about 2 hours?
Oh, yes.
I don't think we broke anything.
It was like a little waterfall on the side of the road, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be perfect. And the back end sunk.
Those were the early days when you were still the Yeti off-road.
The early days. That was pre-YouTube. That was just Instagram.
Just Instagram. You're like, hold on, we're on our way out. I gotta get this picture. And he backs up into a waterfall. And then we get stuck for 2 hours, and I'm calculating how far of a walk it is.
We're so dumb, but it actually helped me get that winch.
It's expensive, off-road. This whole hobby.
The off-road game.
It's very expensive.
It's an expensive lifestyle. I'm not even gonna call it a hobby anymore. It's a lifestyle. It's a whole endeavor, you know. Fuel neck clogging. That's an ongoing issue. Have you ever noticed that, Des? When you're fueling up the truck, it starts spitting fuel out and it's stopping it, and there's only like $12 worth of fuel in, and you know it's empty because you never fill it. And so
I only fill it up to $10 because I get too bored standing there, so I'm like, it's good enough, it'll get me to where I need to go.
Maxx will get it.
Maxx will get it later.
Yeah, or you use our home fuel station, which takes me an entire day.
Which I won't anymore
to go
now that it's filled full of water because somebody left it outside in Washington State.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. That was my bad. Speaking of getting water in places water doesn't belong, Did you guys know that on your Toyota's differential, there's a little breather valve, okay? And some people do the rear diff breather tube mod. That's not exactly what it's called, but it's a modification where you take a tube and you run it up into the bed of your truck. Well, I always thought that was dumb. I was like, I don't need that. I've never had problems with this before. And that's because I've never opened up my differential. But one time I was at Tyler's house and I did, and I drained that stuff, and it was totally milky and mucusy, and it stunk. And it's because water got into the differential, and it caused all sorts of gumming and nasty problems. And had I left it in there, it was literally just by chance that I had to drain it. The fluid would have gotten, it would have rusted out the gears and ruined the gears, and that would have really sucked. So watch out for that. If you buy a 2016, really honestly, if you buy any Toyota Tacoma or really any Toyota truck for off-roading, do that rear diff breather mod. And I still need to do it. If you plan on doing any water fording.
But nobody should be going in water with your truck.
Everybody.
You've shown me the videos of people crossing rivers, and every time we see one, Max is like, I could probably drive through that.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's a terrible idea. It's just, this is not a boat. It doesn't make sense. That's just pushing your luck. That's a bad idea.
Everything about it screams it's a bad idea, but it feels so good.
Why? Why though?
Dents, dings, and paint problems.
I contributed to it.
We all contribute to the dents and the dings and the paint problems, and this is a 6-year-old truck, and it looks like a 20-year-old truck, and that's just because of the way that we treat it, and that is totally...
Use it!
Yeah, that's up to the user, you know?
Multi-uses too. We use it as a farm truck sometimes, and...
Farm truck, grocery getter, wheeler, family trail rig. It was my daily forever. And
we've traveled a lot of miles in this truck, and
overlanding.
Yeah, it's taken us. We've kind of like switched over to the Raptor because it's just roomier, but like we've used it.
Yeah,
definitely. I knew you were missing some. Steering wheel off, bent frame, sucked up water, winch failure.
Did I talk about the bent frame?
Did you talk? No, you didn't.
Yeah, so the bent. Oh yes, so that was in Moab. That's when I was like, I got the new shocks on the back of the truck, and I was like, dude, we should hit these whoops. And then I read that the whoops, like you have to hit them at speed, otherwise it doesn't really work. And so here's the clip. And the front end plowed, like completely plowed into the ground, and it shoved everything up into the frame. And I swear that truck would have been totaled if it wasn't for the CBI Off-Road Fab slider and bumper combo, because it did crush the slider up into, like it crushed it up into position, and it slightly bent the frame, but we were still able to drive home that day, and like that thing was completely wrecked. In fact, we went wheeling after that like all day long, and it only finally died when we broke that CV axle in Moab. But that
CBI saved the day.
Saved the day. That skid plate, like it has these crumple zones that just perfectly did their job. So if you guys are looking for armor for your off-road vehicle and you're trying to decide between aluminum and steel, it really depends on what kind of off-roader you are. If you like doing lots of rocks, like rocky stuff, or the area that you live is rocky and you're gonna just be like slow crawling over rocky stuff, go with steel because it's stronger on those like rock impacts, and when you do end up on a rock, you slide off of the rock a lot easier. Aluminum is soft and kind of sticky on rocks actually, so you might end up trying to work yourself over a rock and like plugging up on aluminum and just getting stuck.
But it's still better than nothing.
Definitely better than nothing. Aluminum, however, is lighter weight. So if you're more of an overlander and you're trying to do a lot more long distance stuff, you want protection if the worst comes to worst, but you're not like intentionally going out there to like bash on your truck, then aluminum is the way to go. And that's where we were at the time when we had the aluminum plate. And then when the truck kind of changed jobs and we switched to steel. So check out CBI Off-Road Fab. They have a lot of awesome options for that, and you can use my link, which is in the description below. and maybe get yourself a discount. It depends on what time of year. It depends on what kind of sales they have going on.
Is it Maxx 10 still?
Yeah, it's Maxx 10 still. Yep, that's the code.
If it's still active, it's Maxx 10. Rooftop tent fell off.
Yes, that's right.
Was that in Moses Lake?
Yep, Moses Lake at
I remember that.
the back end of our first massive overland trip when you had never been camping.
Never been camping.
Outside of like a backyard camping trip.
And
And
that didn't go so well.
you vomited the first camping trip. Right on me. I had like a bouquet of flowers.
It was a test
But it was
to
as
see
if-
if you actually loved me.
It was as if the flowers made you vomit, or the words that I said, I love you, and you're like, "Bleh."
So
But
you do love me.
I do love you, yeah. And it was clam chowder. Remember that? It was clam chowder from
That was such a cute
our first date in Seattle. Not our first date, but it was a Seattle
anniversary date. It was
Anniversary.
an anniversary date.
The taillights. If you check out the back of the taillight, I smashed it with our skid steer when we were trying to unload the canopy that was on the back of the truck. Because this truck used to have a canopy.
Was that me when
Yeah,
I
it was. You were like, come on, 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 come on. Okay, stop. You hit the taillight.
Sorry.
Because I couldn't see. The most terrible, the worst issue on this whole truck is here.
And it's still ongoing.
It's ongoing, and there's nothing that I've been able to find that can for sure fix it.
If you have had this issue and you've fixed it before, you've probably already told us, but leave it in the comment section for someone else to try. We've probably already tried it, but somebody probably needs the help.
And it's not the actuator. I've replaced the actuator 3 times. 3 times I've replaced the actuator. It's not the actuator. There's something else going on. There's a sensor either in the rear differential, I've heard, or in the transmission that has problems, and it's a moisture related thing is what I've found or I've heard. It's moisture related, and that's what I feel like I've noticed.
That makes sense.
And so occasionally, it started off as a real occasional thing. 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive change failure would come up on the dash, and you can't electronically select 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. It just stays in 2. Sometimes you can like put the truck in neutral and like confuse it, turn it on and off and on and off, and then it goes away and you can get into 4. And that's what I've been doing for probably the past like 2-3 years.
We just confuse it.
We just confuse it. And it sucks because Toyota wants $6,000 to fix this problem, and I know somebody through Instagram, Kai from Big Island Overland, who has paid this money and still the problem came back. And that's not something I'm willing to do. So in our barn right now, there's an FJ Cruiser transfer case. And if you've been following the channel for a while, I know I keep saying I'm gonna put it in there, and I will. I thought we'd have a shop by now.
We're this close to building a shop. Like this close.
6 inches.
Super, that's not 6 inches. An inch. We're really, really close. It's almost there.
So close. And so, yeah, I'd love to have my own shop to do that modification, and literally it's purely out of frustration, and at this point, like, I'm not willing to actually fix the problem. I want to like erase the problem. I want to take it out and throw it away. Which reminds me that I've also torn ABS cables in this truck, and I need to go through and check that out as well, because the ABS system comes and goes in this truck, and that's another problem with the long travel, is that wires just get stretched. So if you switch to like a +2 or a +3.5 long travel kit, just make sure you're checking your cables could be linked.
We'll be trying it out once we build a shop.
There's theories that the ABS cable having issues with the ABS sensor throws off the 4-wheel drive sensor because it's all intertwined with the crawl control and all that nonsense. Crawl control is just a big old sham. I just want to put that out there too.
Is it? I thought it worked really well. When you first bought the Toyota, I remember you took me to Juniper Dunes in the Tri-Cities where we were living, and you were like, babe, watch this. And you were like,
yeah, that's true. I know. I go back and forth,
up and
it just did it all by itself. It was super cool. It's just like 9 times. Like that's cool if you don't want to go off-roading and you get stuck and you're like, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna put it in crawl control. But if you want to go off-roading,
feel like
I've
it's
never
helped
used
us
it.
a lot.
It's
Like in the snow. It's helped us in like the extreme situations where you're just like
yeah.
we're stuck.
I guess when
And
I
then
have
you go
like no other option
and it
and it
takes
does
you.
the whole like crazy little noises and stuff. Yeah.
It does work.
Okay, it's not a sham. I'm sorry.
No.
That was rude.
It
of me.
works.
I got excited. I'm just upset. With the 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive change. Just upset.
Rust.
Yep. So rust. It's a Toyota. So
Rust.
Toyotas have rusting issues. So make sure you coat everything. Make sure you get in there. Make sure your frame is tight. It's not nearly as bad as some of the older generation Toyotas, but there is some rust up underneath there.
Especially if you live in like wet areas like Washington.
Yep, like where we live. Or places where they salt the road. Or if you're like us, we love to drive on the beach. And if you don't immediately, like, and I mean it, like people said it. And I was like, whatever, dude, whatever. It's water. It is terrible. Salt water is so corrosive. It is so bad for your truck. So, I'm not saying don't go drive through the ocean, because you should. It's a phenomenal, fun feeling. Des might disagree.
But you shouldn't be driving through water. I'm sorry. That's basic knowledge. Sawyer, no.
No. But yeah,
That's it. For now.
that's it. That's all. Just over 20 items that have broken in 6 years.
But it's still running
And it's still our truck.
and it still looks cool.
It looks good. Yep, it's a good truck. Like I said, I preface this and I want to. So what's the opposite of a preface? Conclude.
Conclude.
I would like to conclude with, this is a great truck, and if you're not an idiot, you probably won't break it as often as I have.
You're not an idiot.
Thank you, honey.
You're just reckless.
Reckless. So, go have fun with your truck. Break it. Just fix it and keep going. They're good trucks. They're fun. And
Life is meant to be lived. Can't take it with you when you die.
it's true. You
Just
can't.
use it.
I mean, you could sell it to the next guy for profit or even just for, a
guess.
normal
I mean, you
amount of
could.
loss. But we're going to hold on to it forever. All right. Okay. That's about it.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, at least it looked good when you're doing it.
Nothing a little gas pedal can't fix.
Exactly.